Alexa Fraser, and I'm here to talk today about the concept of death with dignity. Very briefly, the concept of death with dignity involves letting those who have a terminal illness and less than 6 months to live ask a physician for a prescription which, when they take it, would prove fatal. There are a large number of protections embedded in this kind of proposed law. Oregon already has this law, and those protections include 2 doctors checking on how it's making certain that the person is of sound mind and that there's no coercion, various waiting periods. Suffice it to say, it's a very structured and legal process. Let me say what it's not. It is not euthanasia. Euthanasia is somebody doing something to you, possibly against your will. This is a personal choice for requesting and receiving aid in dying. It is also not assisted suicide, where somebody, again, would be doing something to you. For instance, the most famous case of somebody who provides assisted suicide would be Jack Kevorkian, and this is very different from that. The history of this is actually that it started in Oregon in a UU church. The first meeting to organize this was in a UU church, and a Unitarian Universalist minister named Ralph Moreau worked tirelessly over 7 years back in the early 80s to get the nation's first law to allow this. His context at the time was more about HIV and AIDS than it was about older people, cancer, or neurological problems. However, as HIV has decreased, as the medicines have gotten better for that, the energy around this has moved more towards elders and other people who might receive a terminal diagnosis and choose to die. The leadership and organization in the Death with Dignity movement, it comes from a group called Compassion and Choices, which I've got a link to on materials for this week's course. And the Compassion and Choices group reflects a merger of several other groups concerned with this, and does come out of some of those early efforts led by a Unitarian Universalist minister. The scope of the Compassion and Choices organization, and I suggest that you poke around on their website, look for your own state, see what they're doing in your state, see the breadth of their services broadly, but they offer not only help to people in states to get a law passed in their state, but they also offer legal defense to people who are wrongly accused of assisting suicide or euthanasia. They offer advice to people in states that do not yet have this law, who feel that their time has come and who meet the criteria. It's a wonderful organization. Their goals, one of the things that we've talked about in this class is how goals need to change at different times in a social movement for social change. And the Compassion Choices group has done that. I think they've refined their message. They've now got a legal basis with pointing to Oregon and its successes, Oregon, Washington, and Vermont, and their successes. And they are now working in 38 states to get passage of this bill, with differing levels of success depending on local context. I've been working in Maryland, and it looks as though the Maryland bill will not pass this year, but it has a much better shot for next year. Bills of any import rarely pass in Maryland in the first pass. I've alluded to one aspect of a Unitarian Universalist connection, or the spiritual religious dimension. For me, this is just about kindness. This is about letting people who are facing the end of their lives any day now make a choice not to die in as much suffering, with as much suffering, or other terrible negative symptoms, let's say seizures or other things that could impact them. You might want to look up the story of Brittany Maynard, who's been very popularly represented in her explanations for why she made this choice. In 1988, the Unitarian Universalist Association in our General Assembly passed a bill, passed a resolution which has a lot of words but boils down to we support the ability of somebody to make this end-of-life choice if they meet the criteria that we've been discussing. And we have a couple of wonderful films today. We have How to Die in Oregon, which I can't urge you enough to listen to watch the entirety of. It's almost 2 hours. I know that's a lot of time. I've got timestamps. If you can't watch the whole thing, watch just the snippets that I've given. But I think you may want to watch the whole thing because it's great. If you don't have access to a streaming service such as Netflix or Amazon Prime, I have another alternative listed, which is also good. It's not as heartfelt, it's more intellectual, but it's also good. And I really look forward to communicating with you through Moodle about the options that I'm discussing. There is no one right answer for everybody. There's certainly no one right answer within our group. I expect there to be a lively dialogue on this subject, and I look forward to communicating.